One is where does AI and blockchain kind of come in together, and are there any vulnerabilities? It started off in the 1950s as amazing mathematicians that even showcased AI. It wasn't just here yesterday. In OpenAI, they have a tool called QStar, which is GPT-5. Go a little bit into it, but I want to start off with prompt engineering. Crazy thing is, in return, you can actually benchmark people in their capabilities. Where is it going in terms of performance? Honestly, AI is getting significantly cheaper. So, and the ones who actually profit are the ones who are able to make a service that can guarantee you that hallucinations won't be in part of the result. Those are the ones that are going to be sold, and then that's going to be a private model. And then later on, the open source community is going to discover how to do it, and it's going to be public. And then the system continually moves on. With RAG components, you're now able to take these large documents and simply ask questions against that text. I think AI in healthcare is going to be significant, especially when it comes to the government contracts. A lot of you guys here are it is as if it was there. It's done. It's already been there, done that. It's less than a second. And the capability of these models is that some of these models are actually similar to
Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Curtis A. Merriweather Jr. You guys can call me Dr. Kurt. The purpose of this channel is to educate entrepreneurs. The way we educate entrepreneurs is through education, consultation, and training support services. Now, the goal of this channel is I want to help lower your learning curve and accelerate your business profitability. Now, we're going to do that by simply providing advanced education. As many of you guys know, in 2023, I completed my PhD in management from a great institution. We're going to share practical experience based on almost 28 years of experience in this game. And we want to share lessons learned and there's tips, techniques, and strategies that we've learned along the way to make the journey easier for you. Now, on the screen, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, my Instagram handle has changed, so please note that on the screen. Now you'll see a URL. It's 8figuregovcon.com. That is our teaching platform. We have about 25 to 30 hours of on-demand content. In addition, we do 2 monthly Zooms every month. Every month we do 2 monthly Zooms. They're live. I'm going to answer your questions. We have a very specific proprietary format that we follow in the 8-figure government contracting community. And so I want you to be able to take advantage of that. If you want to get more information, definitely go to 8figuregovcon.com, but you can also go directly to our course store library. And there's 2 flagship programs. That's our 8-figure government contracting for barbers and cosmetology. And then there's the 8-figure GovCon 5X program bundle that I'm going to encourage you to tap into. Doesn't matter if you're new or seasoned, there's going to be something that's going to accelerate and change your entrepreneurial paradigm there, I promise. Now, as we prepare for the kickoff of summer, I am doing a 20% off coupon code until the beginning of summer, which is June 20th, 2024. So if you use coupon code SUMMER 2024, you're going to get 20% off in our course store library. And that coupon code is going to expire at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 20th of June. And you definitely want to tap in. We're having amazing success stories from our students. Now, before I get into the content for today, I want you to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So anytime I produce new content, you will be notified most promptly. Okay. Now that we have that out the way, we're getting ready to drop into a live session that we had in the 8-figure GovCon community. This conversation is being led by Miguel, who is a Silicon Valley insider. I just want to read Miguel's bio quickly so it provides some context for why he's qualified to lead this discussion. Miguel Bernadin is a highly accomplished senior platform engineer with extensive experience in leading technology companies. With over a decade of expertise in distributed systems, Kubernetes, scalable infrastructure, big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, and distributed computing, Miguel has consistently driven innovation and delivered impactful results. His roles at Accenture, Mesosphere, BetMix, Host.ai, and Circle underscore his ability to excel in complex technical environments and significantly contribute to the evolving fields of artificial intelligence, also known as AI, blockchain, and distributed computing. His experience spans various sectors, including entrepreneurship and startups in Silicon Valley. With no further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Miguel. And again, this is just a small snippet of a conversation we had several weeks ago in the 8-figure government contracting community. Hope you enjoy.
But a lot of these capabilities have significant impact, and it's going to change significantly. So we'll just go a little bit into it, but I want to start off with prompt engineering. It's all about crafting the right questions. The AI itself is going to have information that it's trained on. It's using it's practically almost trained on the internet. Anything on Stack Overflow, anything on websites, it has that information, and effectively you're asking questions against that information. And all AI is doing really is predicting what the answer might be, what the text might be. So it takes your input or your prompt, and it's going to give you back a response. If you really want to make the response really good, you're going to have to give really good prompts. And that's where the engineering comes from. And how do we craft our prompts to it? We'll talk a little bit more about this, but it starts off by asking the right questions. And from there, the prompts over time, especially on OpenAI, all the chat features that you normally give or what's free, they actually take that information, they iterate off that. So all the prompts that you get, and especially what Dr. Kurt was mentioning in our last session, they train that information and they refine that. So all the things that you consider right, where you give thumbs up, they take that information. Now that's like holy data, or if golden data, if you will. And then they use that information to then replay that back into the model. So if somebody asks the same question, they will be able to get that curated data that you approved. And that's significantly powerful. A lot of people who own companies, who have customer information, and they're giving information about issues or problems that they have, anything that's considered solved and those are the right answers, they use that for that. I'm going to try to briefly go through these slides. We do have a few amount of them. We have about 30 slides or so. So I'm going to go quickly through them just to give maybe anybody some questions or thoughts or responses on this. But AI is fully tunable. You can change how much what they call the expression or the granularity of it. So you can literally tune how much you want it to be very verbose. You can dial it in. You can do max tokens. It's incredible there. The model is also being improved significantly. So we'll go through that. I just want to just really mention here that if you really want to get value out of the AI, the prompt engineering is going to be key. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the prompts that I use and I want to share with you guys here. Quick recap of AI. It started off in the 1950s as amazing mathematicians that even showcased AI. It wasn't just here yesterday. There's a lot of things that OpenAI did that makes it super usable, but that's effectively taking AI, what was kind of used for Amazon's, recommendation whenever you want to buy products. Those are AI as well, but they're making it more of the chat interface. So AI has been around for a long time. It's been there by the pioneers, by Alan Turing, who's effectively one of the OGs of the computer world. IBM used it in Deep Blue when it actually created an AI to beat Gary Kasparov, which is an amazing leader in chess. You've seen it on Watson in 2011. You saw how it was able to answer and beat a lot of those folks. You've seen it also in AlphaGo where it beat, and Go was, and the powerful thing about Go is that there's no real right answer. It's all about probabilities of choosing the right result. You see how it beat the best chess player in the world. We're talking about in the world, no one can beat him, and AlphaGo was able to learn and beat it. It beat that person. You've seen it with the rise of GPT, OpenAI. Now you see it in DALL-E 3, and DALL-E 2, and DALL-E 3 that just came out with image generation, where you literally now, Mark Zuckerberg also talks about you can now literally type, and as you're typing every keystroke, the AI is getting so fast that now you're able to type, and the image changes right before your eyes. So it's getting really insane. And what does it mean for us? We'll talk about that as well. So this is also a famous quote by a politician, how AI is going to change the world more than anything since the Industrial Revolution. And I wanted to quickly go through the applications of prompt engineering and also just AI in general. What does it mean for us? There's so many applications of it. When it comes to natural language processing, even a lot of the books that I have is very text driven, but you're able to like convert that to text, to speech, and I am able to use that text and all of the corpus of text I have and generate that. You can also use it for content creation. It can literally do blog posts. People have been making, I don't know if you've probably seen YouTube videos of people, making millions, making money off of making books using AI, and the amount of books that are coming up into existence is going up significantly high. And if, like I mentioned, AI is actually trained on large corpus of text, whether it's the internet or even books. What's funny enough, if you ask AI about a book that it read, you can actually get the spark notes of it. So you can say like, hey, tell me about this amazing book. And it'll tell you all the details about a book because it read it. And you can even ask it for summarization. It's insane. And so it can use for content creation, even books, blog posts, articles, image generation. We talked a little bit about that with DALL-E. I have a little demo to show you guys of where it's at today. It's now at a point where it's movie quality. Like it's a lot of, let me say this. I think Tyler Perry was just about to build a whole music a video studio, just like, like Warner Brothers, how like they have a whole encampment of just stuff. He literally, and it was going to be like over like 100 million. After he saw Sora, which I'm going to show you later, he canceled the whole thing, which means that the ways of doing the same job is going to be significantly different. And a lot of people are kind of concerned that maybe AI is going to come for your jobs or anything like that. I think there's a lot of important things about this, just like how technology was reinventing our jobs since the AL days. It's going to be the same now. We're going to naturally grow into it. So it's just going to make us better. We're going to be able to use things, move faster, and just be more connected. So I think a lot of people are going to embrace that change, but it does mean that change is constant. And that's the only thing. That's a little bit tidbit of that. But it's going to be really good for continuing along. It's going to be really good for data analysis and code generation, which I think, it's already been here, and there's a lot more today. I think there's a statistic like 60% of all the code that exists right now in GitHub is code generated. And I definitely concur with that. All right. So what does it mean for us? Just generally, I think AI is going to be significantly good for personal recommendations. I have a funny story. It's in the slides. We'll talk about what it meant for me, and it was super unexpected. Natural language processing. Imagine being able to create, a lot of text that were not able to be translated that easily, because they're maybe from esoteric languages that there were not that many spoken people. AI is now able to take those texts and can actually make it available in many different languages around the world. I know in the printing press, the Bible was translated when the printing press came in. Bible was in, which is the most high-selling books in the world. It was used to that process and this new innovation. And now imagine being able to take something that was once, one language and being able to translate that. Natural language processing is a significant factor of that. Predictive analytics has been around for ages. Even quantitative hedge funds use that significantly. Even actually AI is built on a lot of the quantitative methods that hedge funds use, like MCMC, which is Markov chains, all of these AI-based mathematical concepts have been used both in AI and also in machine learning capabilities. And of course, autonomous decision-making, as you know, like Waymo is effectively successful in their self-driving cars. I live in San Francisco. A lot of the cars out here is self-driving, and it's kind of crazy just to be in it and to see it move and to be next to a car that's moving by itself. A lot of this is going to be more and significantly more impactful in the future. I think AI in healthcare is going to be significant, especially when it comes to the government contracts. A lot of you guys here are in from what I know from some of the students are in the AI space, in the healthcare space. And I think that's also, as us being individuals and humans, we also have, it is also going to impact us when it comes to health. One of the things on the left, when it comes to disease diagnosis, there's a lot of doctors that will look at an X-ray and unfortunately not be so detailed in finding exact spots. But AI can be trained so well to look at specific defections or issues within the body, and is able to quickly diagnose with high accuracy. it's insane what it's able to do. The amount of capabilities that are there that can be unleashed and unlocked for the sake of improving people's lives is there, and no one's gonna be upset at you for being able to make that improvement. I think there's a lot of value add, and if you give that to doctors who can then administer care, it's going to go a long way. Drug administrations and development, especially in places where, you know, looking for the efficacy of people and the issues that they run into is going to be important. There's a guy who started a company called 10x Health, how he looks into people's blood samples and he tells them, you know, what foods to eat. And AI especially can help with doing all sorts of recommendations there. Personalized healthcare, clinic support, it just goes a long way. So I think AI is going to be significantly disruptive in the next decade. Just in this area alone, we're talking about billions of dollars, if not trillions, over the period of decades. So, you know, if anyone who's in this field, and anyone who's able to get their hands on it of AI, which we'll talk about what that means for us, you know, it's significantly powerful. The adoption of AI, you know, this is from a study of McKinsey Global 2022. You know, this is the kind of the companies or the industries that have adopted AI so far. You know, obviously technology has been the highest in the forefront, but government's at the low front. And I think that if, you know, we in this space in terms of government contracting can really add value, and the government needs it. And so they need us, they need people like who are interested in, and AI is very simple. The concept has been around for a long time. Obviously there's a lot of waves and innovation, but all we have to do is simply take AI's capabilities and apply it in a domain and reap the benefits there. So I want to say that though AI is big, it's super impactful, the application is very specific into the domains that we run into as well. So I want to quickly go through that. So before we go into a lot more of the quirks of AI, I want to talk a little bit about my AI-powered research experiment. Didn't know it was going to be impactful, at least for me. But my wife and I went to Portland. Was a recommendation from our cousin for Haitian. Our family's Haitian, born and raised in New York, and so they recommended to us to go to Portland and check out this restaurant. But I didn't know anything about Portland, so I decided to, you know, to ask AI if it actually can make recommendations for me. It did. It put it in a full text format. But one of the things I actually asked it to do was put it in a format that Google would be able to use to import it to my calendar. So I told it to turn it to an ICS file. I was able to later import that, and it was such an interesting experience. It was able to, you know, fully talk about, like, you know, when I landed from the restaurant, the hotel I went to, from the restaurants that I would go to places I should see in the interim, where I should go. So literally did all the recommendations, all the hidden paths, the gems. And then I was able to put it into a calendar. And then my whole trip in Portland, which, you know, was jam-packed, it was effectively like a weekend trip. We were able to, like, you know, make best use of our time. Being able to do this takes a long time. So AI is really here to help us. Obviously, we would do it ourselves, but if we can do the same thing for more, you know, low cost, that's where really AI comes in. And I would say the biggest nugget for me is that AI is effectively a leverage tool. You know, you're able to do for the little effort, you're able to get 10x the result. So to me, AI, all the value really of AI is significantly based on leverage. And this is the main gist, I would say. And kind of going into a little bit more, these are some of the recommendations that it provided. You know, going to the park, you know, visiting some donuts spots, you know, looking for the powerful cities of books. I didn't know that was a big thing. AI was able to literally guide it all. Visit the Rose Garden and some breweries as well too. You can see here's an example of my calendar import. So literally every single detail here is exactly what it told me to do. I wouldn't be able to sit here methodically picking out and writing all this information of when I should go here, when I should go there. Literally, it was able to do it all for me. And this is all custom. You know, all of these models are now going to be open and free accessible. You know, you can even download your own AI model in your computer. There's tools like Olama. You can put it onto your MacBook Pro. If you have a GPU, you can run it there as well. So you can get the stuff that's free, that you can download on your own machines, or you can do it on OpenAI's GPT, which is what I did here. And I told it to convert it to an ICS file that I can simply import, so you can see all the details there. That led into an interesting surprise. So these are some of the areas that I went and visited. This is kind of like the Portland thing to do, to check out. One funny story. This guy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy. His name is Damian Lillard. They call him the Mr. Portland himself. So he was born in Oakland. He also became 6-time NBA All-Star, won the NBA Rookie of the Year. into 2013, and yeah, he's the guy of Portland. And what's funny is that just with all of this, AI actually led me to meet him. Like we met actually at Mother's Day. So it just so happened that my wife, we just gave birth to a daughter, a beautiful baby girl, and she wasn't a mother at the time, but we went out during that time, and we went to a recommendation for lunch. Damian also was there, and it was very surprising to meet him there. And so I would say AI has done a lot, being able to allow us to connect with people and make some really good recommendations. I don't think we would have been able to cross paths in any way if it wasn't for the assistance of great assistance and recommendations from AI. So we were able to meet. I have a picture of him. That's him and I at the restaurant, and it was a funny story. I don't want to put it on camera here, but maybe if we'll grab some drinks or something in person, I'll explain some backstories here too. But it was fun. Got a chance to meet him, and it was all done through, with the help of AI, certain I would say ad hoc things that also came in along the way too. So I don't give AI all the credit, but definitely was a significant factor too. So just quickly going back to just a little bit of the tidbit of AI. There are some capabilities that I think are significantly important for us. There's this feature called RAG, which is the Retrieval-Augmented Generation. The capability of RAG is, and this to me, I think this is a superpower. Imagine being able to take any corpus of text, that could be textbooks, that could be PDF documents, that could be things on the web. The capability of AI is that you can literally give that information to the model and ask questions. So normally we're so used to keyword everything, right? Keyword-based search, type in, do Control F for this, Control C, Control V. With RAG components, you're now able to take these large documents and simply ask questions against that text. So you're able to, find information that correlates to, a general area. So you can fuzzy find things that are, was really, really difficult. The other thing you can do with AI is that you can actually compose things too. When I say compose, being able to, move things in different workflows. Let's say you have some type of event, and generally from this event, like a flow chart, maybe one decision is made here or there. You can use tools like Llama Index for custom development as well. And then, of course, when you combine all of that with effective prompt engineering, you can really take advantage of the capabilities there. So I wanted to mention that because I very much think that, that's like the secret sauce. And so, going back to AI, you're going to really want to be able to protect your data and not just give your data out anywhere, because the capability that is there is endless. And so you can imagine the amount of application that's here as well. So going into a little bit of prompts, because what does it mean to us? When it comes to AI, I wanted to share a few prompts that I really like using. Imagine sometimes going through, some of the RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, there's just so much text. So what I like to do sometimes is, use things like explain this whole concept in like Eli 5 or explain like on 5. And what it could do is break down, especially with the higher parameter models, like break down all of those texts into something that's very small. And very concise and easy. So if I'm going through tons of, RFQs, I can simply, have it summarized for me. There's tools that you can download as well. Like there's another one called Max AI, a really good, powerful AI tool that you can just put in your browser. You put in the website you want to go to, press a button, and it would summarize it for you. A lot of people do that to save time on reading RFPs. And then maybe if that's something that you like, you can go into more detail. So these tools are here to help you save time. Remember, it's about leverage. The other prompt that I really like using is when I'm sending a message to someone, I always, put a message with brevity. The default settings for OpenAI can be a little bit verbose. So sometimes, you might see the traditional theme, like you respond to something and it says, I hope this message finds you well, blah, blah, blah. Because I feel like a lot of people are going to be more familiar with that. Everyone's going to be using these tools. I like to add a little bit of a prompt, talking about brevity or adding emotional EQ into a message, because it would really take that into consideration. One quick anecdote, there was a study that was performed where there was like 1,000 responses from doctors, like a Q&A of people asking questions, and these doctors were answering all those questions. And then what they did was they took AI, they trained the AI model for those thousands of questions, and then they made the AI answer the same question, but in their own voice, in the AI's voice. And then they did a blind study test of which responses would be better, was better. I thought it was just going to be the doctor's response. Turns out that it was this response of the AI, because it actually added, in its prompt engineering, it added more EQ, more emotional intelligence. Even though it's artificial, they were able to add such more of a special touch, because if you think about the doctor's resources, they don't have enough time to go into details and explain things. But with the help of AI, they were able to significantly, it was highly rated more on a blind study test, the responses of AI. So the impact is here to stay. And I think the folks that are actually able to harness AI and provide value to the people who are behind it are going to go a long way. Just a quick anecdote. So going to RAG a little bit more, and this is kind of like the secret sauce. You really want to be able to, AI is really going to tap into the databases. It's going to have an interface between your database. The old CEO that I was part of, Circle USDC, he said the human AI, US text or text to speech is going to be the new SQL. So imagine being able to use AI that can talk to SQL, fetch information about that, look in your Google Drive, read your documents, being able to create information based on that document on things that it knows that it's trained to be right. And so that's effectively how it works. And ultimately, what AI does on the hood is predicting the next result. So imagine it being able to make decisions or perform actions. It just goes a long way. So some of the things that it's able to do is like summarization, task-oriented dialogue systems. It's able to leverage external knowledge, like we mentioned about, SQL databases and your files, your digital files and formats, make accurate responses, coherent summaries, just make it more intelligent, more informed conversations. It just goes a long way. You don't have to worry about errors and typos or anything like that. It just adds more value. It's like having it's like spell checker, but spell checker plus, it's like a better form of that. Where is it going in terms of performance? Honestly, AI is getting significantly cheaper. You could think AI is as costly as cost effective as a commodity like any computer. But back in the day, our phones are much stronger than even what was put in the spacecrafts in the NASA rockets. Like the power that we have in our hands are significantly powerful. And Google creates their own tensor processing units, their AI design chips that go on your mobile devices that allows you to do text-to-speech, natural language processing, effectively making this super cheap and more affordable. And Mark Zuckerberg mentioned that Llama 3, his new model that's going to be released soon, is going to be significantly better than the Llama 2, and even more efficient. So imagine you have more efficient hardware with more efficient AI-based mathematical models. You're able to it's going to be super accessible. So it's going to be on your phone. It's going to be on your small little devices, your small tablets, and it's going to be super effective. So that's really what I wanted to say about that. It's going to be just way better across the board. So if you're going to be betting on AI, just really all you have to do is bet on the rate of how commodity is coming more affordable using Murphy's Law. And I think our industry is just bound to happen. So this is just a freight train that cannot be stopped. Some of the attributes of AI is context window. So before, AI used to be able to only run or read be able to certain models. I don't know if you guys remember when you first started using AI, but you couldn't copy and paste large text. It's now finally got to the point where you're able to do 100,000 texts or 100,000 tokens. That's effectively whole textbooks, many textbooks, or even movie scripts. It's able to know that and put it to context. Whereas before, it would only had 10,000 concept windows. It was only like a whole maybe essay. But now it's at a whole screenplay. So it's now going to have larger context windows, longer coherent generation for AI, and being able to just contextually understand information across these large disparities of information too. And that's where it's headed. It's going to be more like this, and it's going to provide a significant impact on being able to take in and literally suck in so much text and be able to provide you a cohesive response of what that information is and how it's going to impact our business. The other factor that's important on the properties of AI is its tokenization, or the speed of the token. So some models can be super slow, like for the most popular services like OpenAI, ChatGPT-4, it's super slow. And we'll talk about it in a demo. I'll show you a little bit at the end, how there's certain models that are actually changing this upside down and going significantly fast. But tokens per second is really important. It's literally how, as data comes in, how fast can that CPU or GPU can convert that to make the next word prediction. It's effectively how the AI model works. And then the parameter. So a parameter is effectively a model, and ultimately it's a model that has these flags of like how can a series of neural nets can predict the next word. These flags or parameters is what makes it fine-tuned on how it best predict the next word. Instead of it being cat, or it would maybe be like Siberian cat. Like it's going to be more, if you tune it, it's going to give you a more specific or sophisticated answer. The higher the parameter, the more the sophistication. It's like looking at a letter L, and is it one, right? And that type of sophistication or the type of information that you get is really what dials in one or L. You know, that's probably the easiest example I can say what parameter is and how it effectively means for us. So back in the day, 2018, you know, it only had GPT-2 only had 1.5 billion parameters. GPT-4 now has 175 trillion. And it's going to be even bigger for GPT-5. And actually, a lot of people, Elon Musk just sued Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. One of the things he mentioned is that they think that they have AGI where it's able to do, is so good at almost everything that is at a point where it can really compete with us as human beings. And you can literally replicate like the world's best scientists just in your data center. So, and so what that means is actually pretty big. So they're saying that their new model, which is Q-Star, is so good that it was able to beat one of the best encryption technologies out there, which actually makes it a national security, which is why they're saying that it should not be released. And also it's able to come up with its own encryption mechanism, and also new mathematical algorithms and problems, that $1 million problems that people was not able to answer, is able to answer that. But imagine being able to keep that for yourself. And this is why Elon Musk, you know, really wanted to go hard on making his own AI company, and why he calls his AI, instead of OpenAI, which is what he coined the name, is now XAI, because the fallout between him and Sam Altman, and him actually suing him and trying to, you know, really democratize AI because of the risk of this one technology being able to be mass produced, the best scientists in the world, or the best biologist, and keeping it for one company. You can't compete with that. All you have to do is buy compute, and that's 10 times better than mass producing humans. That's the risk, right? So that's what they're trying to do. And parameter size is really what creates the intelligence of the AI model. And of course, it has to be done based on training data. Like, it has to know the state of the world, where it's at, the concepts that we understand today of what fact is, and it's built on, you know, all of this information. And AlphaFold is the protein structure prediction model of, you know, how to understand where this protein might come into, or how it affects us. A lot of this is done through AI, and the amount of compute there is super difficult. But using artificial intelligence makes it easier for humans to, instead of avoiding those calculations. What's funny enough, they used to be, back in the day, before computers used to be a thing, there used to be a job role called computer. Someone used to say, what's your role title? I'm a computer. And all they did was simply following mathematical functions and really calculating them. That's all their job was. And obviously that was replaced by calculators and all these sophisticated AI models, but no one really bats an eye for those types of roles. I think, you know, that same person could be the data scientist that we know today, right? So, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, changes over time, and it happens slowly, but over time people get interested and they see better ways of doing things, and they just leverage that. That same person will just leverage those tools. They wouldn't really reinvent something new or do it the old way. Kind of what we're thinking about. And also, just getting into the end of these slides here, but, you know, I think one important thing about AI is the external knowledge base. We talked a little bit about this, but being able to have a centralized place. Imagine being able to, you had a tool that will check your email, check your calendar, and it was your new AI agents or assistant, right? So someone wants to send an email with you, they'll say, "Hey, Dr. Kurt is busy at this time," and they'll email that, you know, or being able to answer your phone call and screen, like, "Hey, I see you trying to reach this person. Can I ask you what you're calling about?" And it can screen it. And if that person doesn't answer, it hangs up. You're in a meeting. You don't have to say, "Hold on one second." You know, it's just a better form of information. So external knowledge is going to be super important. You know, being able to say, is this person in your contacts list, or, you know, has this person sent you an email before? It can help with spam information, where especially people are trying to do identity theft, and maybe people might be vulnerable, and it might realize that this domain is not real. So the amount of cybersecurity capabilities is just incredible, and you can do so much with it as well. In the last few slides here, the knowledge of AI simply starts off with just being able to take diverse sets of data sources in, extract meaningful information. That's like the curating part of the data labeling part. Is able to generate insights from that based on the data labels, whether someone said that information was accurate or it was a solution, and is able to then refer on that really well. It's able to refine its knowledge, through iterations over time, especially if it's real time, and then it's able to apply that, especially in the next person that asks a question, and is able to provide better responses on that. And then later on, it's able to improve with newer models, newer parameters, and things like that, context windows. The other piece I want to get into is its new capability. For those of you who are not familiar, there's multimodal. Multimodal allows you to use text, images, audio. It has insane capability. I want to show you guys a quick demo. And I don't know if you guys seen it, but there's this thing called Sora. All right, so this imagine you asking for so this example here is imagine you typing this to an AI model. You say, I want to generate a litter of golden retriever puppies playing in the snow. Their heads pop out of the snow. And you're able to just do this. And you could put this in your slides. You could put this in your website. And you can see the realism of these models. And these are all free. And it's all generated real time by these AI models. And it's just getting so sophisticated. This is one of OpenAI's new release called Sora. And it's just getting significantly good. I'm not going to play all of it, but I'm actually going to fast forward it and put the speed up really quick so you guys can just quickly see what does this look like. I'm at like 3x right now, but you could just quickly see like this is like, these, this is a beautiful landscape shot. Another one here, this is a movie scene that all generated by AI. I'm going really quickly because I want to make sure you guys if you have any questions or thoughts, I don't want to take too much. This is people walking in the snow in Japan. A robot in a cyberpunk setting over here. Once one is able to load successfully, I think the video is actually moving at 3x the speed right now. So it's probably taking a little bit of pulling on the YouTube data center, but I think you guys get the point. And these are all free. These are all generated by AI. So it's literally able to predict the next screenshot or the next frame, and it's able to merge those together. That's what it's capable of doing. And I'm not going to play the whole video here. As you can see, Sora is just able to create these lifelike or highly expensive images that normally would create a graphic designer and all these things, but he's able to do that no problem. And that's what you could see here in this animated GIF. And so that's multimodality. It's going to be able to generate images, pictures, images, pictures, video, audio, and just voice, right? All of these capabilities. The other thing that it is able to do and where it's heading towards, it's transfer of learning. So, it's able to, now there's this thing called Auto GPT, where it's going to be able to not only are you able to tell it what you want, it's also going to be able to execute it. A lot of it is now going to be able to write code for you or even make calls for you. I have a little demo. I just tried it out this morning. There's a little bit of technical difficulties on that. I need to integrate something, but I'll show you what it is, where it's able to make calls and engage in conversations. And just with a few shot, they call in the OpenAI world or AI world, it's called few shot learning, where you're able to, ask it a few series of questions and is able to improve its proficiency like significantly. All you have to do is like give it like maybe a little bit of mental models. Like for example, there was a problem that AI used to run into where it would not be able to do math really well. But the moment they said, and this is they call few shot, the moment they said break down your steps in step-by-step process, it was able to answer the question. So you took a model that was not able to answer questions before in detail, but just with a few tweaks of prompt engineering, you're able to add significant results or significant value. Going back to the prompt engineering and how AI is able to understand that. And then of course, knowledge transfer efficiency, you're able to condense information, summarize things, and share that with other models as well. So with the new capability of these LLMs, it's now going to have significantly higher logical reasoning, analogical reasoning, deductive reasoning, and abductive reasoning. And over time, what significantly increases this capability is this parameter size. So as models become more sophisticated, or as models significantly get trained and improve their parameters, which requires more resources and more GPUs, a lot of these capabilities scale not even linearly, but scale significantly due to those models. And that's really where it comes into play. And last but not least, this is my last slide, but this is a quote from Stephen Hawking. He says, "Success in creating AI could be the biggest event in history of our civilization, or the worst. We just don't know." I'll leave it off here, but I wanted to quickly go into some demos of some of the tools that I find super powerful. One is Perplexity. Honestly, I think this tool out here is a Google competitor. I barely Google a lot of the stuff these days. I use Perplexity. Perplexity has now a lot of the AI, the venture capitalist companies are actually looking to invest in this tool, and they have been, and they think that this is going to eat the world. But I can literally ask it any questions, about this. Imagine I ask it a question, and the thing about Google, which is OpenAI, it's not real time. It tries to get it with GPT-4, but Perplexity is actually Google's capability of AI, but it's super real time. And not only that, it's able to source information and do the hard work of, is this credible? It's able to figure that out for you and make sure that it actually adds that to the result. So imagine if you're asking information about, I don't know, what would be a good something. That's a good topic. Let's say I want to find, help me find a prompt. Help me find a product for an NSN for government. I wish I had NSN on me right now, but I'm just going to throw this out here. It's able to go and find all of the related sources, and even like how it works here, and also talk about like the important labels. So it says to find a product of your given NSN for government use, you can use the following steps. Use a 3M NSN locator to determine if the 3M product corresponds to NSN you have, and then it gives you like the 3M website, and that's a repeatable source. If the 3M NSN locator does not match, return your match. You can check with the DLA to see if they have information on the NSN and check the associated products. There's a link to the DLA link, the DLA.mil. And then the third one is another option you can use is a commercial NSN research tool, such as the one I provided by the ISO group. Their database allows you to search by NSN part number, or the NATO stock number to find corresponding product information. And lastly, if the NSN is not found, you may need to submit a DD form to request a new NSN assignment for the product you need. And this is the form right here to get the NSN assigned. And so it's able to take a lot of the Google search. And normally you would have to go through the line by line of the Google and figure out, is this what I'm looking for? What this does is take all the Google information, condense it into actionable items that are super relevant for your search. So you don't have to spend time going through the bottom or 5 pages of Google search. It's being able to bring that all to you with the information. And last but not least, it's able to give you follow-up things that you might be interested about. So instead of you typing in the next result, you could just go down here and type in something that might be suitable for you. Or if it's not there, you can also just type it yourself. I find that to be super powerful, and I use this for all sorts of things. That think of it like if I'm trying to find something and search the web for me, it's able to go to the edge as far as it can to get that information and put it into a contextual form that makes sense for me, rather than me doing the work of going to every link. I think it's 10 times effective, and the reason why it's able to do that is because of its the RAG component, which is the Retrieval-Augmented Generation. That's the superpower I think that AI is able to bring. And this is an AI-based RAG search engine, which is called Perplexity AI. I want to share with you. Another one, this is the link I just opened up for the NSN stock locator that it was able to provide. Another tool, we talked a little bit about the tokens per second. There's a company called Grok. Elon Musk has a company called Grok too. Unfortunately, it's spelled differently. It's the same name. They tried to ask Elon Musk to change the name. But anyways, there's 2 Groks out here, 2 AI companies. And one of the guy who actually created Grok is the same guy who went at Google and created their TPUs there. And that's the guy who, if you have a Pixel, he's the same guy who made the TPUs that we use on the Pixel devices. And so he created his own company. And the power here is actually unlike any company out there. I was blown away by it, but I could literally ask it a prompt. Let's say something about how do I get started in, I don't know, it's just government contracting, whatever, government contracting. And just the speed is like no other. It is as if it was there. It's done. It's already been there, done that. It's less than a second. And the capability of these models is that some of these models are actually similar to what you get at ChatGPT or maybe Hugging Face. All those models you can download for free. They took it on their own infrastructure, and they're using their own specialized chipsets that makes their model super fast. So imagine you have a need. Maybe there was a government project that requires you to have natural language processing or generative AI, which is what this is, and they want it to be at a certain performance. They need it to be a certain type. Unlike any other company out there, Grok is the king because of their capability. They're able to deliver a corpus of text in just less than a second. It's just unbelievably fast, and it's built upon this whole engineered they call LPU, language processing unit, like never before. And the way they streamline it, the engineering is. I watched the whole 2-hour video of it. It's just incredible. It's just mind blowing, and I'm just blown away by it. But yeah, they're the king of that. And lastly, I want to end off really quick. The slides that I even made, I could have spent tons of information, but the slides I made also was done beautifully well by a company that makes slides, which is Beautiful AI. And I think the amount of time I'm able to focus on really generate them instead of really going through a lot of the color formatting and all these things, they're really able to help me out with that. And then last but not least, actually, this is not the last one. There's another one called, this is OpenAI. This is OpenAI, which you guys already know. There's Air AI. I was going to do a quick demo where you're able to talk to your AI on the phone, but it's failing right now. But one of the things is that I spoke with a guy. They literally tried to quote me on this, like try to sell me their software. It's really good, but you don't have to use this. There's other ways of going about this. But what they're able to do is literally make over 100,000 calls simultaneously around the world. And you're talking to an AI that has a capability of talking about any domain. So imagine like using Grok and voice, and you're able to have a conversation that is so seamless. Just the voice that they're just able to talk about anything and chat up like it's nothing. You're able to do that with services like this. And I was able to demo this with them and also other people who use it. But also one last capability before I finish here is the SMS capability. So imagine being able to take this is the workflow I was talking about before. You can compose a workflow. So you can start off with, hey, this is the prospect name. You can give it a whole spiel about what you want it to do. And then you can, depending on where the conversation goes, it can literally walk it through the person through a cohesive conversation where it's not robotic, right? It's what we normally would do as humans, but it's now able to take advantage of the natural language processing and the AI neural net component where it's able to be adaptable on the fly and really able to steer the conversation towards a goal for the client. And it's super powerful. And adding that to a text-to-speech voice capability is really the game changer. And I explored this live. I was going to do a quick demo. I was going to maybe call Dr. Kurt and do that, but it's not working at the moment. But honestly, I think it's super powerful. But I also wanted to share with you guys because where the industry is heading right now is going to be a game changer. And you could just apply a lot of the concepts that we talked about here in any domain, in any industry. And I think it's going to really impact and make significant advancements in this world as well. So that's just what I want to share with you all. There's a scientific study. It was published by the Archive by Cornell, and what it mentioned was that simply two-shot. If you what they found out, just like the math problem I talked about before, where it's able to, if you say break it down, if you ask the LLM model, can you verify is what you just said is correct as a system prompt? So you have a normal prompt, someone asks you a question, and the system prompt acts in a two-shot saying like, hey, can you verify this is correct? Turns out the AI model will go back and ensure that it did hallucinate. And they said that hallucinations dropped significantly. But what really brings in, it just drops significantly, but according to Murphy's law is that if it's possible to happen, it will happen. It turns out there's AI models out there that will use RAG. So it's able to take verifiable known text that is true and make sure that the AI model always references that as a flag. So it's always. And if it has that information, it's going to provide it. And if it does not, it's going to say it does not. Unfortunately, to really remove hallucinations, you need to make sure that you have all the questions. And the model has to be very pinpoint to that. So the solution they're saying is enable two-shot, which is make sure you verify with the model, again, asking the same question, is that true or not? And it's gonna really correct itself. The problem with that two-shot design is that on a chat interface, you're doing more work, right? You give it a prompt and then you ask it again, can you verify? It's gonna say, oh, so I'm sorry, what I really meant to say is this. So, but that's annoying. But imagine a tool that takes those machine learning discoveries that's in Archive and all those Cornell documents and puts that in the application that significantly improves the hallucinations. And so I would say to summarize all of this is that later on, hallucination is not going to be a thing. It's going to be a known solved problem because a lot of people had created new solutions that ultimately realizes how it comes in, how the hallucination occurs, and they're going to really create the fix around that. So it's a known issue, but as mathematicians and data scientists and AI experts come into the game to solve that problem, it's not going to be a thing. So, and the ones who actually profit are the ones who are able to make a service that can guarantee you that hallucinations won't be in part of the result. And those are the ones that are going to be sold, and then that's going to be a private model. And then later on, the open source community is going to discover how to do it, and it's going to be public. And then the system continually moves on. And the reason, and this is where it gets a little scary, because AI is now, a lot of the stuff that's in AI is now being quantitative. They're able to compare different AI models against this thing called it's called BERT, and there's other like mathematical evaluation tools. So you're able to take for each AI model, you can benchmark it and you can say this is their capability. But the crazy thing is, in return, you can actually benchmark people in their capabilities. And so you could say, based on like, especially if you're able to ask someone to write something on the fly where there's no internet connection, or if you're in a specialized test, the people who are able to write text or write information, real time, they're able to create or profile people's writing habits. And then if there's deviations from that on another sample test, let's say they return in a paper, they will be able to understand like where did that deviations come in, whether it's their vocabulary, maybe there's the style of text, whether they use soliloquies or different forms of output. They can figure out that there's definitely some help there. And that type of consistency of being able to profile people and understand that there's a deviation from that is significantly important in the academia world. The other thing too would be like where they get their information from. And because the AI model is going to be able to know the sources of that quite quickly, is able to then discern like how they're able to come and make that information occur. And so I think that's going to increase, but I think the how is going to be hard to find, because nowadays with prompt engineering, you can actually change. AI models have difficulty of doing this. You can actually tell the prompt to write in a very specific way. Like with the example I gave, when you say Eli 5, now you can change the reading level. So normally the prompt will give you a result like, I hope this message found you well. We're an incredible company focusing on X, Y, and Z. They'll use like verbs and terminologies that are really high. But with the same prompt, you can say Eli 5, explain like I'm 5, and it will say, how are you doing today? My name is so-and-so from this company. So it can literally change the game there. And with the right tools, if you have the right tools kind of coming in and surrounding your whole workflow, you're able to track where the person's, not playing by the rules, but when it's ambiguous, when it's not something that you have no point of reference, that's really where it gets difficult. And the AI models are going to have a more difficult time. But it's a hard question on that, but I would say it's a combination of those two. I guess the two-part question. One is, where does AI and blockchain kind of come in together, and are there any vulnerabilities? And the second part being, are people going to be using autonomous agents? And I think for the first part, I spend so much time in crypto. It's quite insane. The biggest vulnerabilities that are known right now, AI is part of it, but it's not the biggest one. I'll tell you the biggest one in a little bit. Q-Star, right? There's a rumor going out that Elon Musk and Sam Altman is really fighting these two. They're trying to bring it to court because he wants the whole world to really listen into what's going on in OpenAI. But they're saying that in OpenAI, they have a tool called Q-Star, which is GPT-5, and the capability of that is, this thing is so good that the next evolution of AI is what they call the super agent. And there's another term that they use for this, but its capability is, or they call it AGI, autonomous general intelligence. This AGI, the moment you achieve AGI, it's game over in a sense, because what they're saying is that with this capability, you now will have the capability of being like the leading scientist and creating your own encryption. And if not only creating your encryption, but finding the vulnerabilities in the NIST, what normally they would use for RSA encryption. And they just discovered, this is a rumor, by the way, and I'm waiting for it to really be announced if it's true. But they're saying that in OpenAI, their AGI is so good that it was able to defeat one of the encryption mechanism, which is AES 256 is what I remember hearing in one of the in the law papers. And that's a big thing, which means if the AI was able to come up with a function, a mathematical formula to defeating the encryption, then that's a big problem. That's a significant problem in the industry. And they want to hold that out before releasing it, because that means there's a known vulnerability that is effectively a CVE, a criminal vulnerability. And, they can't release that. And if it is, then that's a big problem. So that's number one. But the thing about blockchain, though, is blockchain, it doesn't have, especially for this hashing function, it doesn't have the same vulnerabilities, because AES encryption and what blockchain uses is different. It's primarily using significantly high prime numbers. Those RSA keys are so high that the chances of you guessing them in terms of prime numbers are just difficult. And the only thing that can do that right now is functionally, and these are to guess numbers and break down those numbers, is quantum mechanics or quantum computing. And the reason why quantum computing can do it is because of the amount of calculations that you need to use of classical systems. You need to do it takes you almost millions of years to be able to figure out and guess what those prime numbers are. But in quantum computing, because everything is, you can now with a qubit, you can collapse a function into an answer that almost like the quantum computing can guess. And that can get you really closely to the prime numbers. And if there's any threat, it is the number of qubits that quantum computers have against RSA encryption, and the algorithms for the guessing what the prime number would be. So the biggest threat is not AI, I would say, it's more in quantum computing. And if any company is able to achieve stable qubits and is able to get like over 2,000 qubits or more, that's when they're able to defeat quantum computing. And not only blockchain, but encryption overall. So I would say blockchain is the bigger threat than AI, because AI is just going to generate the formulas. Blockchain is actually going to crunch the numbers of what it is to put those public KPI or PKIs, the public key cryptography infrastructure, to a private key. And the moment you have private key, you have the world. You at that point is game over. And I think that was the blockchain part. And the last part about the second question related to autonomous agents. So I would say for autonomous agents, what we're going to see now is like Google demonstrated autonomous agents when, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Google Duplex, you're able to literally tell it that you want to make an appointment. And instead of you going on Google and typing for the company, searching it, calling them, you can actually make the appointment. The agent will make the appointment up on your behalf. And it will use their Google Duplex, like their voice capability of saying, hey, I want to book an appointment. I don't know if you guys seen the demo before, but it's out there. It works. I did it one time. And it's just not so public for some reason. But you're now able to use AI to execute things on behalf of you, write programs up on behalf of you, make changes in your state on behalf of you, and make sure that it runs in a continuous fashion. And we're seeing that in the industry today, and there's going to be a lot more tomorrow. And the industry needs more people to be able to do that. And you could do things with threat detection. If something happens in certain patterns, you can actually cause it to alert people and make changes. There's all sorts of things you could do. So autonomous agents, if I were to be a company launching that now, I would really want it to do things like booking, setting up appointments, and do things that people would, that's more stateful, of handling all those states and doing it to the T. If that can be done, I think that would be super powerful. So I would say that's just one example, but I know there's going to be a lot more in the future. I haven't looked into that one. There's a lot of stuff, especially that happens in the space. I think the biggest problem that the industry was going to need to address first before getting to AGI is the scarcity. Like being at an AI company, it was so hard to get AI just to run our own models. And for you to get AGI, you're going to need to be able to come up with an AI model that has significantly high parameters, that has significantly high training data. And you're going to have the last piece, the most important piece, is bypass the GPU scarcity. We have significant GPU scarcity right now, and Sam Altman wants to bet hundreds of millions of dollars to solve that GPU scarcity problem. Like you saw how Grok, I gave you an example how quick that is. They created their own infra. And this was like in 2016. They were kind of preparing just to do this capability, but they need another form of hardware. And I would say any company that's closest to making AGI are only the leading companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Perplexity. Even the Perplexity doesn't have the number of AI, or Meta. those companies are the only ones that actually have in-house those the H100s and A100s to be able to make an AGI, because the AGI needs a place to live. And blockchain is just like an algorithm that allows it to have global consensus, but that consensus just means that everyone agrees. That's really all blockchain is in a nutshell, just the agreement. For you to really get an AGI, you need to have the compute, and that compute has to be insanely costly. Like we're talking about, like just for one A100 is like $40,000, just one H100, one. And you need, for you to run like GPT-4, you need about like I don't know, I don't remember exactly the amount of metrics, but it's just, you need many of those H100s to run one model. So for you to have an AGI, you need such a sophisticated compute infrastructure that's just insane. And and then you gotta improvise, like how can you maybe make it more efficient, and you need platform engineers to do that. So you need behemoth companies to really achieve an AGI, and anyone who makes a consortium of companies to be able to do that, they're just trying. To me, the evidence is that there's a requirement, and if they don't have that, I just don't see them making an AGI. They can say what they want, but I just don't see it.
Thank you for watching the video. So I definitely want you to continue tapping in. I want you to go back and watch some of my previous videos, and I'm going to catch you in a future video. Until next time.